Cabaret songs breathtakingly tell two stories, one on stage at a nightclub and another in the real lives of its characters. Welcome back to part 2 of my series about the musical Cabaret, speaking specifically about the amazing music. In part 1, I introduced the musical background and shared the musical intricacies of the first song that sets the tone of the rest of the show. Among them being most prominent is the chromatics that dominate the score. I'll continue to point out these chromatics. In this video, we'll talk about the innovative concept musical and look at how the next few songs encapsulates that. Cabaret is one of the earliest concept musicals, and it shares some similarities with Chicago and how the songs function. In Chicago, each song is styled as a vaudeville act, offering commentary on the story and characters. Similarly, in Cabaret, some of the songs are presented as performances at a seedy 1930s Berlin nightclub, serving as a satirical reflection on the narrative and its characters. Most of the other songs adhere to a more traditional book musical structure, grounding the story in the personal and emotional lives of the characters, which I will be calling book songs. A quick way to tell the difference: if it's sung in the cabaret, it's a cabaret song. If it's sung in a different location, it's a book song. Kander and Ebb wrote nearly 50 songs for Cabaret. Of course, most of them were cut. When writing the songs, often after receiving any scripts or scenes, Kander and Ebb would choose moments to expand into a song. Ultimately, so many songs were written and cut as the story evolved, characters were changed, some songs were just not good, and the pacing was tightened from 3 acts down to 2 acts, with Act 1 and 2 being combined. Which is why when you look at the songs now, you'll see Act 1 is so much more stacked. In the production I watched on the West End, and the one currently playing on Broadway, there are approximately 17 unique songs. Out of these 17 songs, 10 of these are cabaret acts of the Kit Kat Club, 5 of these songs are book songs, and 2 of them seem to teeter between both, and importantly at crucial moments. Welcome In, the opening song, was a cabaret song, and it set up the atmosphere and the mood of the night's proceedings. We then get some story with Cliff, an American writer who has just arrived in Berlin, who meets Fräulein Schneider, who sings So What, a reflective and somewhat resigned song where she expresses her pragmatic acceptance of life's disappointments and hardships, highlighting her determination to carry on despite the turbulent times. This is our first book song. The introduction has rhythmically spoken parts, which is very reminiscent of the songs of the day. When the songs actually start, it's a 3/4 time signature. It flows relentlessly like a waltz would, but heavy, con pesante, as if it has emotional baggage to it.
For the sun will rise and the moon will set, and you learn how to settle for what you get. It will all go on if we're here or not, so who cares? So what? So who cares?
The singing begins with a prominent chromatic from the F to the G flat, before leaping up a major 7th back to an F. By the way, the major 7th interval is the inverse of a minor 2nd interval. Like in this example, going down a minor 2nd is an F, and going up a major 7th is also an F. And this F that we have here is firstly contrasted dissonantly as a non-chord tone, and secondly, it is insistently repeated. And even in the second phrase, we now have an E flat that doesn't fit in this chord tone either. This melody that goes against the grain of the harmony is fairly jarring and does a great job of reflecting the disillusion of Schneider, as if the accompaniment is the relentless hardships and her singing goes along with it, but she can never get it to really fit together. The dissonance lasts until the end of the song, never resolving, but rather goes back into speak singing, like at the beginning of the song.
Who cares? So what?
The next song has sometimes been the telephone song, a cabaret song, but most revivals have removed it, seemingly for good reason. The music is a bit too silly and kinda doesn't fit into the structure or pacing of the musical. It doesn't serve a huge purpose either, just to emphasize that a patron to the Kit Kat Club, like Cliff, can get anybody on the other line of the phone to talk to. The song is also dominated by chromatics too. The next song, Don't Tell Mama, is another cabaret song. It's the only one which sadly gets to be fun and flirtatious. It starts with our very famous vamp from the first song, but now it's energetic and raucous. It's there to help the audience transition back into the cabaret before it continues with a very free introduction in both singing and accompaniment, reminiscent of salon-style performances of the time. In these settings, singers often began songs with a loose, expressive vocal line, accompanied by a pianist who followed the singer's lead, creating an intimate and spontaneous atmosphere. This approach allowed performers to draw the audience into the storytelling aspect of the song, where performers frequently blurred the lines between speaking and singing, enhancing the personal and conversational tone of the performance. This verse, when it comes back into a more singing form, is dominated by the chromatics again. This chorus also has this prominent chromatic drop in both the vocals from C to B and the bass from F to E.
Hush up! Don't tell mama! Shush up! Don't tell mama! Don't tell mama!
In fact, this chord is called an augmented sixth. I did a video on the augmented sixth in Aladdin a while ago. Check it out. There are 3 types of augmented sixth chords, and this one is, coincidentally, the German sixth. The function of the augmented sixth chord is that it wants to resolve down. The next song, Mein Herr, another Cabaret song, was added for the 1972 film adaptation, though it was added to most subsequent stage productions. It was added to provide more importance to Sally's role in the movie, played by Liza Minnelli. This is a cabaret song in which Sally asserts her independence and dumps her lover. Very similar to the Don't Tell Mama song, it starts off with the same Willkommen vamp, and then a free-flowing introduction containing some prominent chromatics,
What I do when I'm through.
before gradually getting into the chorus, which in itself has these chromatic appoggiaturas. The song just repeats the chorus 4 times, slowly building up the energy and speed, and while we originally started in minor, the last 2 choruses erupt suddenly into a major key. Back in the Renaissance and Baroque era, the church deemed it necessary for pieces written in a minor key to resolve to major, something that was dark and somber for the entire duration, to end with uplifting and morally superior closure. That is called a Picardy third. To our ears, it can be a bit jarring. This isn't an example of the Picardy third, but the idea is the same. The sudden shift to major in the second half introduces a more confident, upbeat tone, suggesting Sally's determination to present a strong, carefree facade despite underlying vulnerabilities. After a string of fun cabaret songs, we are back a bit in reality with the next song, Perfectly Marvellous, yet another book song. In this scene, Sally persuades Cliff to let her move in with him. Interestingly, the music intro to the song is the melody of Don't Tell Mama, though obviously recontextualized to be more subtle and genteel, appropriately so too. This is a fantastic example of recontextualizing previous motifs. It's such a pleasant song, and also dominated by so many chromatics.
I met this perfectly marvelous girl in this perfectly wonderful place as I lifted a glass to the
And at the end of the choruses, when we get a chromatically moving bass line.
this perfectly marvelous girl in my perfectly beautiful room, and we're living together.
Sally's persuasion succeeds, and Cliff reluctantly joins in, marking the first time he sings in the musical.
Truly remarkable girl in this really incredible town, and she skillfully managed to...
This moment is unexpectedly jarring, as Cliff, based on the real-life Christopher Isherwood, has primarily been a passive observer, functioning like a camera that simply takes in the world around him. His singing here is not an expression of his own emotions, but rather an act of mimicry, as he echoes Sally's words back to her, reflecting his role as someone who absorbs and reflects, rather than actively engages with, the chaotic world of Berlin. The original draft of this song was called Roommates. Both songs effectively do the job of persuading Cliff. However, as opposed to Roommates, in Perfectly Marvellous, Sally characteristically puts more weight on how marvelous she is. This song has a lot of chromatics, of course.
My roommate is absolutely dear. I'm seldom aware that she is here.
Also of interest is the Willkommen vamp rhythm coming back here, perhaps to indicate that Sally is blinded by the cabaret life.
Why, just last evening I looked about, and I was hard put to figure...
This section also includes a fantastic bit of a gradual and emphasized downward chromatic line, where we leap to a D, our highest note we've had since. It gradually descends chromatically and winds down to Roommates.
Why, just last evening I looked about, and I was hard put to figure out how in this wide world I ever lived without my roommate.
Next, a cabaret song extends the idea of the previous song. Now that Cliff agrees to have Sally with him, we have a, as described by Garabian, Tacky and smutty and verging on soft porn, the song Two Ladies, in which the MC sings about how he sleeps innocently with two ladies in his bed. Not much to say about it. It's got the chromatics though, of course. In the next video, we'll continue looking at the songs of Cabaret and looking into its masterful orchestration. Cabaret masterfully employs both book songs and cabaret songs to create a rich, multi-layered narrative. The cabaret songs performed within the Kit Kat Club serve as a satirical mirror to the broader story, offering commentary on the characters and the turbulent world of 1930s Berlin. Meanwhile, the book songs explore deeper into the personal lives and emotions of the characters, grounding the story in reality. Through the use of chromatic scales, dissonant harmonies, and clever musical callback, Kander and Ebb's score reinforces the themes of disillusionment, facade, and the stark contrast between the glittering surface of cabaret life and the harsh realities of the era. Ultimately, it's this intricate interplay between these two types of songs that make Cabaret a groundbreaking and enduringly powerful piece of musical theater. Please consider joining my Patreon for free to support the work that I do. And since this video, I have launched a new YouTube channel called The Instrument Makers. Please check it out. Anyways, thanks for watching and please subscribe.